Yes, whenever you're ready.
So, the media today glamorizes teenage pregnancy in shows and movies such as Juno, 16 and Pregnant, Teen Mom, and The Pregnant Fact. While we see it plastered everywhere throughout the media, and it's become less of a taboo to speak of, precautions for preventing teenage pregnancy aren't as openly discussed. My claim is that distributing birth control in high schools prevents teenage pregnancy. Because establishing programs for distribution of contraceptives is helpful for those who cannot afford it. Having access to the pill gives teens the ability to be safe if they choose to have sex. And people who are given the means to acquire contraceptives do not always engage in sexual activity. So my first claim is establishing programs for distribution of contraceptives is helpful to those who cannot afford it. 13 schools in New York City are going through a program called CATCH, otherwise known as Connecting Adolescents to Comprehensive Health Care. CATCH dispenses Plan B, otherwise known as the morning after pill, to teens attending the selected schools. The specific schools were chosen because they're located in areas with high teenage pregnancy rates, and the students that attend the schools come from low-income households. Also, the areas that the students live in are not nearby any clinics or health centers. Parents of the students who go to the schools have the option of opting out of the program so that their children don't have access to the pill. So that brings me to my next point of having access to the pill gives teens the ability to be safe if they choose to have sex. Students who are already sexually active involved in the programs are more likely to use other forms of birth control like condoms. The Kaiser survey found that 4 out of 10 students who are sexually active have taken a pregnancy test. NASBHC, or the National Assembly on School-Based Healthcare, says that 9 in 10 of centers throughout America provide pregnancy testing, and 2 in 10 provide prenatal care for the students that are already pregnant. The most common methods of birth control distributed at those health centers are condoms at 30% and oral contraceptives at 25%. Lastly, people who are given the means to acquire contraceptives do not always engage in sexual activity. Some argue that if you give teenagers contraceptives, it gives them a reason to be sexually promiscuous. However, the distribution of contraceptives can further sex education in schools. It gives teens the opportunity to discuss issues about sex that they might be afraid to discuss with their parents. And some private schools that just preach about abstinence before marriage isn't necessarily going to stop teenagers who are already participating in sexual activity. If they're given access to contraceptives on campus, they'll be more likely to utilize them and practice safe sex. Knowing the risks of STDs and pregnancy can halt some teens from taking it to the next level with their partner. Studies show that teens are waiting longer to have sex. In a survey from 1995, was a drop in females aged 15 through 19 that were participating in sex from 19% to 11% in 2006 to 2008. And in males who are having sex before age 15, dropped from 21% to 14%. The most common reasons for teen abstinence in 2006 through 2010 is religious or moral reasons. So even if they're given the opportunity to utilize the contraceptives, they could still choose to abstain from sex. So, in conclusion, establishing programs for distribution of contraceptives is helpful to those who cannot afford it. Having access to the pill gives teens the ability to be safe if they choose to have sex. And people who are given the means to acquire contraceptives do not always engage in sexual activity. So, distributing birth control in high schools prevents teenage pregnancy.
Okay, structurally everything is pretty sound. There's a good preview. You state what your proposition is. You signpost things as you get to those particular points. The evidence on the supporting points doesn't always advance the claim that you're presenting, though. You've got this example with catch, but I didn't hear any information that said that it was effective, that they were utilizing it, that there was a decline in pregnancies, or that people put off sex more frequently as a result of being part of this program. And I'm sure that there's got to be some research that supports the program, but it wasn't really presented in this presentation. The same, you had one piece of information about how frequently kids were utilizing pregnancy tests, and the question is, so how is that useful in determining whether or not they are using any type of birth control at all, or what type of birth control they're using? Because you're pretty specific, suggesting that it is oral contraceptives that would be the most useful in this context, primarily, I guess, for preventing pregnancy. And again, there's no numerical or statistical data on this particular point. It seems like it's very conclusionary when you're making that inference. Let's see. And the data on the CATCH program is also, like I said, a little bit thin. Your third point sounds like it's a rebuttal issue rather than an issue advancing your claim. It sounds like it's an idea that you're anticipating a response from the other side, and so I'm going to try and head that off, which is not necessarily a bad thing to do, but I think that you need to demonstrate, for instance, that there isn't this concomitant increase in sexual activity when contraceptives are made available. Basically, your argument seems to be that it's going down because of moral reasons already. So, well, if it's going down in the amount of people, especially before the age of 15, who are engaging in sex, why do we need to be giving them contraceptive access? Because it seems like we're already headed in the right direction. How is this going to make it go down further? That was not very clear. At the end of the presentation, you sound a little bit like you're kind of just fading out. I'm not sure. It sounded like you were kind of celebrating being done at the end of the speech. Maybe that wasn't. Maybe I was just hearing things. You'll have to watch it and see. All right. Thank you.